Before the video starts, I will be giving away 5 promo cards that I got with Prelude 2 and that I already own. I will list them in the pinned comment so you can see if you want them. If you want them, if you want to participate in the giveaway, just leave a comment, like the video and subscribe. And yeah, have fun with the video. Hello and welcome to another Prelude 2 review. This time we will be going over the Prelude 2 Preludes. Same as last time, this is not a concrete tier list. This is my first impression. Again, I have only played roughly 4 games so far. Although I have extensively looked at all of these Preludes and tried to make my mind over whether these are good or not. And we will start off with one that I'm pretty sure is not that great, which is Applied Science. So basically, this Prelude has a wild tag. It immediately has 6 science resources on the Prelude itself, and then it has an action that allows you to remove one of the science resources, and that allows you to then either gain 1 standard resource, or you can add a resource to any card that already has a resource on it. So yeah, I think this Prelude is not that great. Of course, wild tags are always pretty good, but this Prelude, what Preludes are made for is to get you going at the start of the game. So they either give you a good boost in your starting capital or they help out your economy. And this Prelude doesn't really. What you could do is you could use all of these 6 science resources to get titanium, for example. That would then give you 6 titanium, which is equivalent to 18 MC. And you can compare that to ASA, for example, another Prelude that gives you 6 titanium, but that one gives you the 6 titanium instantly and also allows you to draw 2 space cards to use that titanium on. Of course, Applied Science has a wild tag, which has its benefits, as I already said. It's the best tag in the game, probably. But if you're just using these resources for development via taking titanium, it's really not good. You can use them for cards. For example, probably the best case scenario would be to put these resources on physics complex, and then this would be equivalent to 12 points. So basically, you could also do a mixture. You could start off with taking titanium, and then at some point you put resources on point cards and get some points out of this. But in that case, it's heavily reliant on getting a good point card, a resource collecting point card down at some point. And if it's not physics complex, the next best thing is 1 point animal. And that already halves the output of Applied Science. There are other somewhat interesting combos with Board of Directors, for example, a new Prelude that is in the game. And yeah, this Prelude I think is just bad. With the wild tag, you could probably argue putting this in D tier, but honestly, I've put it in an F tier. I think nearly every other Prelude is better than this one. I could make up my mind about this still, but I really don't like it. But let's get to the next one, which is Atmospheric Enhancers. So this is a Venus tag, and it either allows you to take a heat bump, take 2 heat bumps, or 2 oxygen bumps, or 2 Venus bumps, and then it allows you to draw 2 floater cards, similar to what Celestic does. You should take, the thing here is, you get 2 floater cards and you have a Venus tag, and both of these things push you towards the Venus/engine strategy. And in that case, why should you ever take heat bumps or oxygen bumps? This just does not combo very well, meaning that you're pushed towards taking the Venus bumps. Also, if you compare this to, for example, other cards that grant bumps like this, so for example, if you compare this to Smelting Plant, Smelting Plant is nicer in a rush scenario because you get starting capital instead of useless floater cards that don't help you out in a rush, or Huge Asteroid, which just gives you more heat bumps, the instant heat prod, and the only thing that you miss out on are, again, for a rush, useless floater cards, and you also have to pay 5 MC. So to increase the other terraforming parameters, heat and oxygen, atmospheric enhancers is not that great. To increase Venus, however, it can be nice. So it helps out with going for Venus, A, by having a Venus tag, B, by increasing Venus, so helping you to unlock really good Venus cards, and also drawing more floater cards. So it's really good for all of the Venus corps, so MSI, Aphrodite, or Celestic. But in general, the problem with these Venus preludes, and there are a few of them, is that if you're not going for Venus, if your starting hand is not leaning towards Venus or even leaning towards a rush, then these cards are these Venus preludes are kind of useless. So I would probably put it in C tier, because it can be great if you're going for Venus, but if you're not going for Venus, it's not that great, so it averages out, and I think it's C tier or even high D tier, something like that. Next up, we have Board of Directors, and this is literally one of the coolest ideas ever that they had. So basically, it has an Earth tag, and it has 4 resources on it, and then it has an action that allows you to draw a Prelude card using up one of these resources if you want to play that Prelude, and then you also have to pay 12 MC. So just drawing the Prelude, you are not using up the resource. Only if you decide to play that Prelude for 12 MC, then you're using up the resource. So you can, with Board of Directors, you can get 4 extra Preludes for a total of 48 MC. A Prelude, let's get that out of the way, because we will need that to evaluate a lot of these cards. Prelude is roughly worth 21 MC. Just look at Donation, that's the most basic Prelude. It has no tags, it grants 21 MC, and that's middle of the road average Prelude. And every Prelude needs to compete with Donation, and therefore Prelude is just roughly worth 21 MC on average. That means that playing a Prelude with Board of Directors for 12 MC is a 9 MC benefit for each Prelude, meaning that if you're getting out 4 Preludes, 4 times 9 is 36. So Board of Directors theoretically is much better than an average Prelude, because you get 36 MC of value instead of 21. The problem is, Preludes usually are getting played immediately before the game even starts. And Board of Directors is delayed. You will play it, if you take every Prelude you see, you will get your last Prelude online in Gen 4. And if these Preludes grant production, then it's already not that great. Also, it's super luck dependent, because you only see one Prelude. That Prelude could be shit or just not help you out in your game plan. For example, it could be either like society support, which is always just straight up bad, or it could be a huge asteroid, which is a great Prelude, but you're going for an engine strategy, and therefore it just doesn't help you. But you can also get really lucky, like stuff like Head Start, for example. If you get that in the middle of the game when you have tons of cards on hand, it is insane. Or even like if you're unlucky in the middle of the game and then it's last gen and you draw into Loan, that could be insane as well. So Board of Directors is super, super luck dependent. It's super fun. It can be insane. But because it's so luck dependent, I think it's a C tier Prelude. Also, it can feel pretty expensive, because most Preludes just give you a boost to your starting capital or your production at the start of the game. And with Board of Directors, you actually need to reserve 12 MC to be able to use it in Gen 1. So it can feel pretty expensive. Next up, we have Colony Trade Hub. This one has a space tag. It grants a power prod and 2 instant titanium. And then when any colony is placed, you gain 2 MC. So when playing with colonies, power prod obviously is super crucial, because getting to 3 power allows you to trade very cheaply versus having to pay 9 MC or 3 titanium to trade. But the thing here is it's only 1 power prod, so we shouldn't overrate that. You can get quite a bit of money out of the effect, but like in a 2-player game, how many colonies are getting placed? Maybe both players each place 3 colonies, so you get 12 MC out of this. 12 MC plus 7 MC roughly for the power prod, that's 19, plus 6 for the 2 titanium, we're at 25. That's more than 21, yes. But the payout of the MC will take time. Not every colony will get placed in Gen 1. And therefore, I think this can be quite underwhelming. In higher player counts, more colonies will get placed immediately because people are competing for spots on the best colonies. So if there's Luna and Pluto in the game, Colony Trade Hub will be worth more than usual because these are just top tier colonies. Everyone wants to place colonies there as fast as possible, and therefore Colony Trade Hub will be stronger than usual. But I would probably place it in C tier as well because, yeah, I think the payout of the effect is a bit underwhelming. Next up, that's definitely not a C tier prelude. That's Corridors of Power. So Corridors of Power has an Earth tag, grants an instant TR, 4 MC, and it allows you to draw a card each time you become party leader of any party. I think this might be the best prelude of all time. I think it's insanely broken because it will allow you to draw an insane amount of cards. Especially in Gen 1, there are, I think, 2 neutral delegates in 2 of the parties, maybe if you're lucky even in the same party, meaning that 5 other parties or 4 other parties are free to grab the party leader position. You can just place 1 delegate in there and you immediately draw a card. Also, at the start of each gen, at least 1 party will be completely empty because of the election. No, it could be possible that after the election a neutral delegate gets placed there. So it's not always guaranteed. But often at least 1 party will be empty. So you can again just place your free delegate there and get another card. So you see this prelude will draw you an insane amount of cards over the course of the game. And then the question that I have is, why the hell does this also grant a TR at 4 MC? Compare this to Nitrogen Shipment, which grants a plant prod, a TR, and 5 MC. So basically, roughly, you're only missing out on the plant prod of Nitrogen Shipment. And in addition, in exchange for that, you get an insane amount of card draw. Like, what the hell? What is going on with this prelude? When I read this first, I really didn't get this. Like, I remember that this was one of the preludes that was previewed, and I couldn't make out the symbol here. Not really. And I said, it looks like the party leader, but that can't be true because that would be too broken. And it truly is the party leader. Like, if this was chairman, then this prelude would be quite weak because you won't get to be chairman quite often, but you will get to be party leader quite often. If you combo this with any of the other preludes that allow you to place delegates, any of the cards that immediately allow you to place multiple delegates, or even something like Martian Media Center, this can be so insane. So I think this is definitely an S tier prelude, maybe the best in the game. This is crazy. Really, really crazy prelude. Next up, we have Early Colonization. This is the second colonies prelude we are looking at. And again, it allows you, not again, the last one didn't allow you to place a colony, but this one does allow you to place a colony. And that's insanely worthwhile. A colony roughly is worth 15 MC. Just look at interplanetary colony ship that costs 12 plus 3. It grants you 3 energy instantly, meaning that you will be able to trade for energy in Gen 1. And then it says raise all colony tracks 2 steps. This means that your initial trade in Gen 1, that usually wouldn't be worth that much because all colony tracks start off in position 2, is actually quite valuable. This is especially good, this prelude, if some of the best colony tiles in the game are online, Pluto or Luna. These are heavily fought over. And if you get to place a colony there in the prelude phase, that's super valuable. Because that just guarantees you the spot there. Being able to trade there instantly with +2 steps is also a very cool idea. But what I really like about this prelude is that all colony tracks get increased by 2. That means it's pretty risky to play this if you cannot guarantee that you're also able to trade in Gen 2, because it will just make it pretty worthwhile for your opponents to trade in Gen 2 or even in Gen 1 for MC sometimes. Because you can definitely not make use of all of the increased colony tracks before your opponents are able to trade. Like, that's not possible. You cannot trade that often if your opponents know what they're doing. And that means that this is actually a bit risky in some scenarios. But I like it a lot. I think it's probably an A-tier prelude. I really value early colony placements. And yeah, early colonization is just really, really fun. Next up, where is it? There it is. Next up, we have Floating Trade Hub. This one, again, I don't like that much. It has a space tag, and then it does not have an instant effect, anything, just as an action. It allows you to add 2 floaters to any card, including this one, or alternatively, remove floaters from here, any number, so from this card, to gain that many of 1 standard resource. If you don't have a floater card, then Floating Trade Hub basically is a flexible production card, because you can produce anything with this. The problem is, if you want flexibility, you need to use your action with Floating Trade Hub to remove floaters regularly. So let's say after 2 gens of putting floaters on there, you notice, okay, I need some titanium, so you actually need to skip putting floaters on there and remove floaters instead to take titanium. Then a few gens afterwards, again, you would say, okay, now I need plants. Then you need to skip putting floaters on there and take plants. That means it's not equivalent to a card that is producing 2 resources of any kind per gen. And that makes it pretty bad, in my opinion. With a floater card, it can be a good combo piece, but do I want a Prelude to be just a combo piece in a floater engine? I'm not quite sure, because floater cards most often do not have such a strong payoff. I mean, together with floating hubs, this would just be a point per gen. Well, that could be 10 points in a game, like if the game is going on for 10 gens. But do I want a Prelude that just scores points passively? I don't know. I would like my Prelude to grant me starting capital or development so that I can get more efficient cards out. Other Preludes can maybe grant you TR or Venus bumps, but again, I think the payoff is not strong enough on floater cards. That Floating Trade Hub is worth Preludes on its own. I think this would need an instant bonus as well, some starting capital, some card draw, something like that. I think Floating Trade Hub on its own is not strong enough and probably deserves a D-tier placement. Next up, we get another banger, which is Focused Organization. This one has no tag. It allows you to instantly draw a card and gain 1 standard resource of your choice. And then it grants you an action that allows you to discard 1 card and spend 1 standard resource to draw 1 card and gain 1 standard resource. So basically, you could discard a card out of your hand that you don't like, spend 1 MC, and then you draw a new card and gain, for example, 1 titanium. This is insane. This is Marzu on crack. Like, Marzu is one of the best cards, if not the best card in the game, because it grants you reliable card draw. Having to discard cards, of course, is not great, but you can just buy some cycle cards, or you maybe pick up bad cards with other card draw, other blind card draw. And then you can get rid of these cards and draw new ones. And Focused Organization allows you to do that once per gen. And not only that, you also get not only guaranteed upside in terms of resources, because you can always trade 1 MC for either steel or titanium, which is worth more than MC, or you can get plants, heat, power, whatever you need. You could maybe trade with a colony tile, even though you only have 2 power, you just pay 1 MC and 2 power with Focused Organization, and you have 3. Suddenly you have 3 power. You can get a plant for conversion, you can get a heat for a heat conversion. So it's really, really flexible. And just compare this to applied science, which allows you to freely gain a standard resource, but only 6 times, and you don't get any card draw. So in my opinion, focused organization is really good. I think this is one of the best preludes out of this new set. It grants you really good card draw, comparable or even better to Corridors of Power. I'm not quite sure. And yeah, I think this is S tier for sure. Next up, we have High Circles, and I really like this one. This one grants an Earth tag, grants an instant TR. You draw a card with a party requirement. That one is really fun. We had never had anything for that, anything like this. And you get to place 2 delegates in one party. And then it has an ongoing effect that grants you 1 influence. And influence is really, really good because it softens the blow of negative global events, and it just increases the payout of positive global events. And it's basically a form of income because it can prevent you from paying, for example, MC, or it can draw you cards, it can grant MC or steal or heat or plants or whatever. And not only that, the 2 delegates that you get to place immediately mean that you probably also will win the first selection, which will grant you another influence in Gen 2, because then you will be chairman, and Gen 2 is the time when the first global event will hit. And also you can place the delegates after you drew your card with the party requirement. And for example, if you get something like Martian Media Center, you can immediately place your 2 delegates in Mars first. So all in all, I think this is a pretty cool prelude. I really like it. It's really nice. It has a lot going for it, but it's not super overpowered. It's not like Focused Organization or Corridors of Power, which are just crazy. But I would still put it in A tier. Influence is really, really nice. I like the cards that grant influence. Event Analyst is one, and then we had one new one on the expansion. I'll put it on screen right now. And having influence is just super handy because you can, with influence, with negative events, for example, you can never completely negate the effect if you get hit for the full effect with just influence. But if you get High Circles and, for example, Event Analysts, you can do that. You can get to 5 influence that way, and that is just insane. But next up, we have a shitter again, Industrial Complex. This one has a building tag. You pay 18 MC, and then you increase all your productions that are lower than 1 to 1. So this sentence, all your productions that are lower than 1 to 1, most of the time is worse than just saying increase all your productions by 1. Because if you have a corporation that grants production, then you lose out on Industrial Complex because you already are at 1 or even higher. So for example, if you're playing Saturn Systems, your Titanium and MC Prod are already at 1, and then Industrial Complex will only raise the other 4 production types. There are certain scenarios where this can grant more production than usual. For example, if you combine it with loan or society support, which you really shouldn't do. But why the hell does this cost 18 MC? That's just a crazy high price for basically just one of each prod. Like, compare this to Metals Company, which grants you 1 of MC, Steel, and Titanium prod just for free. You don't have to pay anything. So I think this is Prelude to society support. I don't even want 1 of each prod. Why should I want that? The only reason would be generalist. For that, of course, it can be useful because it really truly guarantees you that milestone, because no one will be able to get to all 6 prods after just 1 go, even if you're not first player. But I mean, you could get tapped in between. That would really suck. But yeah, Industrial Complex is really, really bad, especially because it's absolutely useless in a rush. You will never want to spend 18 MC on increasing your 6 productions. Like, this is just useless in a rush. And in an engine strategy, there are millions better Prelude than this one. I really don't like it. I really, really don't like it. I think it's an F tier Prelude. But next up, we have Main Belt Asteroids. So this one has a space tech. You lose 5 MC, and then it has an action that means that says gain 1 asteroid to any card. So this one or another asteroid collecting card. And if you add asteroids to this card, not only are 2 asteroids worth 1 point, also when gaining an asteroid on this card, you gain 1 titanium. So basically, what this does, if you don't have another asteroid card, it grants you 1 titanium prod and half a point per gen for 5 MC. Why again does this lose you 5 MC? Like 1 titanium prod, for example, is on IO Research Outpost, but there you also draw a card, you get Science and a Jovian tag, and you don't lose 5 MC. Sure, you don't get half a point per gen, but half a point per gen on a Prelude. Why again? Because Preludes should help you get your game going or not just score points. Like, with an asteroid combo card, this can be kind of ridiculous. Like, if you combine comet aiming with this, it's basically a free ocean per gen. Like, comet aiming grants you an ocean every other gen, but you have to pay titanium for it. Main belt asteroid means that you can get an ocean each gen, and you basically also pay a titanium, because if you would add the asteroid sphere, you would get a titanium, but you are not required to have titanium prod then, so it's actually pretty good with that combo. But comet aiming is also quite expensive, and it's just 1 card in the entire deck, so the other asteroid cards do not have such a higher payout, or they require 2 asteroids to be activated. Asteroid cards in general are super rare, so I really don't like main belt asteroids. Probably D tier, maybe even F tier. I really don't like it. Next up, we have Nobel Prize, and it's another wild tech Prelude. Again, wild techs are super useful, help with all kinds of combos. And then grants 2 points, and again, why do you want 2 points on literally the first card you're playing in a game? Points are supposed to be played at the end of the game, not at the start of the game. Grants 5 MC, and then you draw 2 cards with requirements. So basically, half of this card is stuff that you don't want at the start of the game. You don't want points at the start of the game, and you don't want cards with requirements at the start of the game, because most cards with requirements, I mean, there are max requirements, meaning that they can be played immediately at the start of the game, but most of the cards require something of you, either tags or a global parameter to be met. And that meaning that they are mid to late game cards. So you do not want to draw mid to late game cards at the start of the game, and you do not want points at the start of the game. The other half of the card is actually stuff that you want at the start of the game. Wild tech is always useful for milestones or combos, and 5 MC of course is also useful, but it's a pretty small bonus. And I think the wild tech alone cannot carry this card. The Nobel Prize is a little bit better if you're playing Inventrix, because Inventrix will have an easier time playing cards with global requirements. But still, in total, I would say this is a D tier card. Just don't like it. It's a good card to get, for example, with Board of Directors in the mid to late game, because it really feels like a mid to late game card. But in the early game, it's not a Prelude I would pick. But we cannot say that about Old Mining Colony. That's definitely a Prelude I would pick. It has a space tech, grants a titanium prod, allows you to place a colony, and in exchange you need to discard a card. Discarding a card, you could say that's -3 MC, but it's actually a little bit, in most cases, it's a little bit better. It's worse in the case where you don't have any immediate card draw and you want to keep all 10 cards in your starting hand. But that's really rare, because in that case it's worse because you don't have a card that you can just easily discard. Then in many cases it's just 3 MC, because you will have to buy one more card out of the starting 10 to be able to discard it, and that will cost you 3MC. But sometimes it's also better than 3MC, and more often than not, it's better than 3MC, because there are ways, even with just your corporation and your other prelude, to draw an additional card. Either your corporation draws a card, like Point Luna draws a card immediately, or you have a prelude that draws you a card. And if that card is worthless, you can just discard it with Old Mining Colony, and you won't have to be like, it's only 1 MC that you lose, because later on you could have sold the card. So what's the value of this card, of this prelude? Titanium Prod is roughly worth 10 MC, because Titanium Mine costs 7 plus 3. Colony is roughly worth 15 because of Interplanetary Colony Ship, and a card is roughly worth 3. So this prelude is roughly worth 22 MC, and you also get a space tag. It's only slightly better than Donation in terms of value, but what I said earlier still holds true. It guarantees you a spot on one of the best colony tiles that is in the game, and I just think colonies are really, really good. And as I explained, discarding a card can be better than 3 MC. Especially one easy way to draw a card is if Pluto is in game. You can just place your colony on Pluto, and from the placement bonus, you get 2 cards. The only problem is if you do not take an additional card out of your starting hand, and you just rely on getting a worthless card with the placement bonus of the colony, and then you draw 2 top tier cards, you have nothing to discard, and you need to discard a good card. I think Old Mining Colony is, even though in theory its value is only slightly better than average, still a B or maybe even low A tier card prelude, because I just think colonies are really, really valuable, and getting them as early as possible is also really valuable, because a lot of placement bonuses also are production. So I really like Old Mining Colony, but I think a good thing here is that it's not that overpowered, and we will see a few more other preludes that we already saw 2 that were overpowered. Old Mining Colony is not, and there will be more preludes that are crazily busted. All right, planetary lines. The first thing I thought when I saw this prelude is, holy crap, this is the best prelude for Planetologist, which is a new prelude that requires 2 sets of Earth, Jovian, and Venus tags. So this one already is 1 set. And then you also draw another Jovian and a Venus card. If you can play these 2, you just need 1 more Earth tag, and that milestone is guaranteed. The next thing I thought was, well, compare this to Unimi Contractor, which grants 3 TR and 1 blind card draw. So basically you exchange, in comparison to Unimi Contractor, 1 TR for 1 card, but in exchange you gain 2 more pretty useful tags. I think this is pretty solid for Engine, because in Engine games you want these planetary tags for all kinds of combos. You definitely want Jovian tags for your Jovian combo that you are most likely going for, and Venus tags are also better in Engine strategies than in Rush. I think in Rush this is definitely worse than Unimi Contractor, because you don't get as much development, you don't really need the tags most of the time, and I would rather draw 2 blind cards than 2 cards with a Venus and a Jovian, Venus and a Jovian tag in a Rush. So it's probably A to B tier, something in between. I'm not quite sure yet. I think it compares favorably to Unimi Contractor in an Engine and not so favorably in the Rush. It's a cool idea, and it's really busted at Planetologists in the game. Next up, we have one of the most interesting preludes, Preservation Program. This one has no tag, immediately grants 5 TR, which is really good. But then it has actually a negative effect, which says skip the first TR you gain in each generation's action phase. 5 TR are a great bonus to start the game off with, but it's not insanely broken. Like, as I said, my contractor grants you 3 TR and a card draw and an earth tap. So 5 TR is not out of this world broken. What is out of this world broken is losing the first TR each gen. Because that completely hammers rush. If you're going for a rush, you want to terraform each gen, and you will lose so much TR over the course of the game if you're rushing and playing preservation program, that it is just completely unviable in a rush. If you're going for an engine, you still want to increase TR in a few gens over the course of a game. And then you're always losing you're always losing a point. That's not great. At first, I thought maybe this could be nice for Priz, which really doesn't want to terraform, except in maybe one gen at the end. But the problem with Priz is that Priz really wants to vote in the reds all the time, because you will be the guy with the least TR and you will not terraform, which means you will not get hammered by the effect. But with 5 TR, immediately at the start of the game, you will not be the guy with the least TR anymore. So even for Priz, it's not great. What it does allow you is to play Terraforming Contract immediately, but wow, that's one card, and you can also easily play that with other cards. So I think a preservation program, this would need to grant like 7 or 8 TR to be in any stretch of the imagination viable. I think this is completely atrocious and easily F tier. I really don't think I would ever play this. So yeah, interesting idea, really interesting idea, but I think just way too weak. We get from an F tier prelude to like the most what the fuck prelude in this entire set. Like Project Eden, when I first saw this, I thought this is a joke. This cannot be real. Like the balancing with some of these preludes is completely thrown out of the window. Like Project Eden is really truly insane. It has a city tag and a plant tag. It allows you to place an ocean, a city, and a greenery, and you will need to discard 3 cards afterwards. What the fuck? Let's roughly estimate the value of this. So a greenery roughly costs 19 MC, an ocean roughly costs 14 MC, a city roughly costs 17 MC. These are rough estimates. That's 50 MC in value. And in exchange, you lose 3 cards, costing 9 MC in total. That leaves the value of this prelude at 41 MC, and then you also get 2 kind of useful tags. The plant tag especially useful, the city tag could be useful for diversifier. Not very useful for anything else. The prelude should be worth 21 MC, not 41 MC. Not double the value. Like, what the fuck? Like, this does not make sense. You can even pick up cards with the tile placements, and then this is not even costing you 9 MC. We discussed this with Old Mining Colony. Like, this is busted. This is insane. This is the dumbest prelude I've ever seen. This is really, really stupid. This should not be in the game. This is crazy. What you can definitely discuss is, do you really need a city at the start of the game? Like, that's the problem with the city placing preludes. Cities are not that valuable, and they do not grant you anything other than points, except for a placement bonus. But that's the thing. You're placing 3 tiles here. You can easily pick up 6 plants, for example. And with just 1 more tile placement, if you're first player, you will get guaranteed another tile placement before anyone can hurt your plants. You can easily get another 2 plants and then convert. And then the city was definitely worth it because it was just another tile to pick up more plants. And you don't need to place these adjacent to each other. So for example, on Elysium, I could say, let's place the greenery on the 3 cards. Let's place the ocean on the side on one of the 2 plant oceans, and then let's place the city on the 3 plants. That means we are picking up 5 plants and 3 cards with these tiles. That's insane. Project Eden, in my opinion, is just dumb. Like, I will play a few rounds with this, and then I will probably get annoyed of this Prelude and will remove it out of my deck in my Prelude 2 at home. Like, this is just, it's unfair. This is not good for the game. Let's talk about Recession instead, which is a beautiful hate card. It has no tag, it grants you 10 instant MC, and every opponent loses 5 MC and an MC prod. If we count this together, like 10 MC is obviously worth 10 MC. Everyone losing 5 MC except you is of course worth 5 MC. So we're at 15. And then 1 MC prod is roughly worth 4.5 MC. So this Prelude is worth 19 to 20 MC. So less than donation. That's the problem here. The only upside that this Prelude has is that your opponents will not expect it. Your opponents do not know they will get hit by Recession, and this could really destroy their first gen. Maybe they took exactly enough cards to be able to play IO mining or asteroid mining in Gen 1, really expensive cards. And then you hit them with Recession and they cannot play them anymore and they lose a whole turn of production. That is one upside it has. The other upside is if you're playing against Robinson or Mons Insurance, you can also mess them over. Robinson will then have to increase their MC prod with their ability, which is really bad. And Mons Insurance will have to pay everyone else 3 MC. But that's only a transfer of MC from the Mons Insurance player to everyone else. You will not get anything out of that. You will just mess over the Mons Insurance player. So I think Recession honestly isn't that great. I think it's probably a D-tier Prelude. Like the only upside of it is again this surprise effect that you can mess over someone's first gen, but that's basically it, and therefore I don't really like it. Rise to Power is the next Prelude. Again, it has no tag. It grants 3 MC prod, and you get to place 3 delegates. And this is the only card in the game, except for one new event card that I will put on screen right now, that allows you to split the delegates. So you can split them into different parties, which is nice because 3 delegates in one party in Gen 1 is probably overkill. This in combination with, let's get that out of the way, this in combination with Corridors of Power is insane because you immediately get 3 party leader positions and draw 3 cards. That's just dumb. But if you don't have that combination, it's still a pretty good Prelude because 3 MC prod is pretty good development. Allied Bank only grants you 1 more. It basically is also a guaranteed win in the first election, because if you really want to win the first election, you can just put all 3 delegates in 1 party and no one will be able to overtake you there. They could all ally and vote another party into power, but you should be able to defend that because you also have 1 more free delegate that you can put in your party. So yeah, it's basically a mix of between development and then instant help because you instantly get a party leader position and win the first election. So not really instantly because the benefit of the election win you will only get in Gen 2. But it's pretty good. I would probably put it in low A tier to high B tier, but probably A tier. It's pretty good. Next up, we have soil bacteria, which is like a mini viral enhancers. You always get a plant when you play a plant or microbe tag. It has a microbe tag itself, so it grants you a plant. Then it grants 3 instant plants on top of that, so you instantly get 4 plants, and you draw 2 microbe cards. Instant plants can really help you to get the instant plants you get can really help you to get an early conversion. And the instant plants you get over the course of a game with playing these cards can also help you to get conversions. And that's really, really helpful. Like that's one of the upsides of Manutech. Manutech is really great at playing mid-game plant cards like bushes, getting more plants instantly than usual, and then being able to convert. That's really nice. Also, this card is really good for Ecologists because not only does it have a microbe tag, it also draws you 2 more microbe tags. But drawing 2 microbe cards it combos nicely with the effect, yes, but it's often just worse than blindly drawing 2 cards, because micro cards are often a bit worse on average. Also, this prelude does not help you financially in any way, and that can hurt a bit as well if you're not playing a poor corp. Like Ecoline combos with this nicely because you can instantly convert, but Ecoline also really likes to either get heat prod or more help in terms of economy because they are so poor. So I would say this is like a B tier prelude. Pretty fun. I like this one. It's not overpowered for sure. But if you combo this with viral enhancers, for example, it can get out of hand. Like getting 2 plants every time you play one of these tags is insane. Now we get 3 similar preludes back to back to back. And the first one is Space Lanes. This one has a space tag, instantly grants 3 titanium, and then you get a discount on the planetary tags by 2 MC. Again, remember, a prelude should be worth roughly 21 MC. In this case, you get 9 MC worth in titanium instantly, meaning that you need to gain 12 MC of your effect to break even with the average, but maybe a little bit more since the income from the effect will come delayed, and the money early on is worth more than money later. So playing 6 or 7 planetary tags will get you to the average, and then playing more will be better than the average. And if you're going for an engine strat, you will easily play 6 or more planetary tags. You will combine this with card draw into good early game production cards with Earth tags. You will draw into your Jovian tags for your Jovian strategy, or if you're going for Venus, your Venus tags. And this will pay out quite a bit of money and be quite good. So I would probably put it in B tier. The thing is, it's not really good for Rush, because Rush usually out of these 3 tags only plays Earth tags. So maybe a few early game production cards and then some Earth space events, like imported hydrogen, for example, is a good Rush card. But Rush players will never play any Venus tags, and there are like only a handful of Jovian tags that could be considered in a Rush, like in a really early asteroid mining, or methane from Titan could be okay in a Rush, but most Jovian tags are just not worth it. So an okay engine card, so I cannot go higher than B tier with this. Similar to this is Suitable Infrastructure, has a building tag, and again a boost to your starting capital, this time in the form of steel, 5 steel. And you again get 2 MC, this time 2 MC rebate every time you increase your production. But only once per action, so it's not like Manutech, that if you increase your production by 4 steps with 1 card, for example, Mohole Area, that you get this 4 times. It's not like that. It's if you play Mohole Area, you get 2 MC back because it's once per action. So similar to the last card, we have an instant component. This time this is worth 10 MC. So we need to get paid out 11 MC with this effect for this to break even with the average prelude. So basically the same amount of, we need to get the same amount of money out of the effect to break even. But I think this is stronger. I think you will play more production cards, and for definitely an important factor is that you will play production cards early on. Like early on production is just better. You will play heat prod, you will play money prod, steel prod, titanium prod early on. And then throughout the course of the game, you will play also some plant prod cards and power prod cards in the mid to late game. So I think this can pay out an insane amount of money. I think this is pretty strong. I think it's probably better than Space Lanes and probably will land an A tier for me. I saw this in game once already and it felt really strong. Sadly, I didn't have it. But I think it's a really, really strong prelude and I like the effect. And lastly, for these 2 MC effects, we have Terraforming Deal. This one doesn't grant an instant bonus, and instead you get 2 MC every time you raise your TR for each step. So if you play demos, you get 6 MC back. So again, no instant capital. That makes it less good in a rush. But at the same time, the ability is really good in a rush because you will increase the TR a lot of times. And then it will pay back insane amounts of money. Like in a rush, you can easily get to 60 TR, meaning 40 steps, meaning 80 MC. That's insane. Like UNMI with this, UNMI would really like some instant capital, but UNMI will also really like this effect. This is insane for UNMI. I think B2A here again, I think it's better than Space Lanes. Probably worse than Suitable Infrastructure. But I really like it. There's a fan-made expansion called High Orbit. And there's a card that grants you 1 MC for each terraforming step you do. And I already like that card, especially because you were able to stack it, because in that fan-made expansion you can certain cards can be played twice or multiple times. And Terraforming Deal is just that card, but easier. Meaning I really like it. I think it's really strong and it's really, really fun in a rush. But let's get to Venus Contract. This one has a Venus tag. It draws you a Venus card, it grants you a TR, and it grants you 3 MC whenever you raise the Venus parameter. This is difficult to evaluate because it really, really leans into playing a Venus strategy. And that, again, I talked about that earlier. That's the problem with these Venus-specific preludes. They are very niche. They work well if you're going for a Venus game, if you have a Venus starting hand, but they are really bad if not. And this one especially, because if you don't have a Venus starting hand, the effect is basically worthless, because only if you raise the Venus you get 3 MC, and you probably won't do it a lot if you don't have Venus cards at the start of the game already. Also, Venus cards work off of each other, so drawing a Venus card when you don't have any Venus cards in hand already is also worse than just blindly drawing one. And then 1 TR is just a consolation prize. It's not great. So it's really hard to evaluate. Like this can be insane if you're going for Venus. How many Venus steps are there? 15, I think, or 18? 15. I think it goes up to 30%. That's 2% steps. So I think there's 15 steps. So this can pay out 45, but that's really unrealistic. If you compare this to Terraforming Deal, way, way worse. I would probably put this in D tier, something like that. Venus L1 shade, definitely better and more generally good than the last one, because you can actually play this if you're not going for Venus. It's risky because if you're not going for Venus and someone else has stratospheric birds or Venusian animals on hand, you just shot yourself in the foot. But at least it does something for you by raising the Venus 3 times. That's 3 terraforming steps, that's 3 points, 3 development. That's okay. It also has a space tag. Yeah, like better than Venus Contract. If we compare it to the other 3 TR preludes, UNMI Contractor is just generally better than this, except if you're going for Venus and need to have the Venus rising fast, because UNMI Contractor also draws you a card and has a better tech in my opinion. Huge Asteroid, which is the other 3 TR prelude. That's much, much better in a rush because it actually helps increasing the parameters that need to be increased for the game to end. And it also grants you an instant heat prod of the bonus. Of course, you have to pay 5 MC, but still, the Huge Asteroid is much better in a rush and just better in general, because rushing is much more common than going for Venus. And as I said, this is risky if you don't know who has Venusian animals and stratospheric birds on hand. Probably C tier. Definitely better than Venus Contract, but not like a top tier prelude. But then we get to a World Government Advisor. And this one, I think, is a really fun prelude. It's just 1 TR worse than Unimi Contractor, because other than that, it's similar. It's really similar. It also has an Earth tag. It also draws you a card, and it has 2 TR instead of 3. In exchange for that, in exchange for losing 1 TR, you get an action that allows you to raise 1 global parameter per gen without getting any TR or other bonuses. So basically, you're doing a solar phase on your own. That's really, really useful if you're rushing, especially if you're rushing, because it can help you close out the game very, very fast, and people that are going for an engine will just not have any time to set up their engine and outscore you. So if you're rushing, this is top tier, I think. If you're not rushing, there's other scenarios in which this could be good. If you have Venusian animals or stratospheric birds on hand, but you don't have enough Venus potential, then World Government Advisor can help you get the Venus up. And then in other scenarios, I probably wouldn't pick it, but it can sometimes be useful to deny other people bonus bumps. Like if you know next gen, my opponent will get the oxygen bonus bump, just do an oxygen step and steal it. Or it can allow you to get bonus bumps yourself, like you're at 6% oxygen, you have 8 plants, but not enough money to SP a greenery first. Just raise the oxygen with World Government Advisor, then place your own greenery and you get the bonus bump. So it is definitely useful in other scenarios than Rush, but I think its main use case is in Rush by just speeding up the game like crazy. And I think that makes this card really, really strong. But those were all the regular preludes out of Prelude 2. And there will be 4 more promo preludes that came with Prelude 2 that will not come with the retail version for now. But we will go over these as well, but I need to place a small cut here, so I'll see you in a second. All right, and now we get to the last 4 preludes. And the first one is Antidesertification Techniques. This is really similar to dome farming. Exchanges the building tech for a microbe tech. Exchanges the 2 MC prot for 1 steel prot, which is worth the same, but steel prot of course is less flexible, and that's why you also gain 3 instant MC. For some reason I like it less than dome farming. Dome farming works towards builder, this works towards ecologist. Dome farming can get copied by robotic workforce, this cannot. Those are basically the only differences early on that matter. The other difference that also matters, of course, is this has less flexible production and you also get 3 MC. I don't know, I don't really like this. I think it's a little bit weaker than dome farming. I think the building tech is more useful because, like, I'm not forced to pick dome farming, but if I have dome farming together with robotic workforce, I really want to pick it. And that's not the case with anti-desertification techniques, obviously. As I said, it's really good for ecologists, but yeah, the production is a bit underwhelming. Probably place it in C tier, maybe D tier, something about that. Yeah. Established methods. This one is really weird, really wanky, really funny. I like it because it's interesting. I don't think it's super strong. So this grants you 30 MC, but it forces you to immediately pay and perform 2 standard projects. So for example, place 2 greeneries or place an ocean and get a power prod. But you need to pay for them. That means you will spend most of, if not more than the 30 MC that you just gained by established methods. A standard project is roughly 4 MC more expensive than a similar card that does the same thing. For example, the standard project power plant costs 11, the card power plant costs 3 plus 4, so 7. There's a difference of 4 MC there, and the card even grants you 2 tags and can be paid for with steel and so on. And the same goes for all of the other standard projects. So if you have to pay 2 standard projects, we could also say this only grants 22 MC because minus 2 times 4. That's the the amount of money that you overpay. And then this suddenly is only 22 MC, and it forces you to do stuff that you might not actually want. Like, do you actually want 2 greeneries at the start of the game? Do you actually want 2 power prod or a power prod in a city or whatever? If you if you take 2 power prod, for example, you get 2 power prod and 8 MC. Is that okay? Well, 2 power prod, that's 14 MC. Again, power plant costs 7. 14 MC plus 8 is 22, and coincidentally, we're at 22 again. The same amount of money that I said. So this is basically a little bit more valuable than the average Prelude, which is worth 21 MC. But it forces you to do stuff that you might not want, as I said. So I think it's actually worse than the average Prelude, and therefore probably is a D tier Prelude. It's not super bad, but it's also like, in a colonies game, I would probably be happy about this because you can place a colony and get a power prod, and I probably like that. But if you're not playing with colonies, I don't like established methods. Giant Solar Collector. Talking about playing with colonies, this one would be great to play if you're playing with colonies because it grants you 2 power prod, and power prod is super valuable when you're playing with colonies because it allows you to trade. Again, if we break this down, 2 power prod is roughly worth 14. The Venus bump is roughly worth 12 because of water to Venus. So this together is roughly worth 26. That's better than the average Prelude. And again, it's not as niche as other Venus Preludes because other than the Venus step, it doesn't require you to, like, it grants you a Venus step, but it doesn't have an effect that basically requires you to go for Venus. And just increasing Venus by 1 is also not as risky. Like, if someone has Venusian animals, 1 Venus step will not get them Venusian animals much faster than usual. So I think Giant Solar Collector is quite good. Better than the average Prelude, probably B tier. If you're playing with colonies, it could even be better. And then lastly, we have strategic base planning. This one, first of all, it's quite nice because it has 3 tags. So if you have Diversifier, it's pretty good for that. Or if you're playing Aerodor, you immediately get 3 MC prod. And then it also grants you a city, a colony, and you need to pay 3 MC. Colony, roughly worth, what did I say earlier, 15 MC or interplanetary colony ship. City roughly worth 17. That's 32 minus the 3 here, so 29. Pretty good value. Question again with all the city preludes, do you need a city at the start of the game? But if you compare this to, for example, to self-sufficient settlement or early settlement, if Luna is in the game, you can get 2 MC prod with your colony that gets placed on Luna. So you basically have early settlement effect, but you have a colony on Luna as well. You get another tag, and the only thing that you have to pay is 3 MC. And the same thing with early settlement and Ganymede. You could put your colony on Ganymede, get a plant prod that you get with early settlement as well. And again, you have 1 more tag, and you only need to pay 3 MC. So definitely better than the other city placing preludes. I really like getting out early colonies, and it's quite flexible because you can choose the colony and you can choose the spot where you place your city, so the rebate or placement bonus from it. So I think this is an A tier prelude, and if Diversifier is in the game, or if you're playing Aerodor, it's even better. Then it's insane. So yeah, these were the promo preludes as well. So now we went over all of the Prelude 2 preludes and the promo preludes, and I noticed that it's getting pretty dark in my room here. But again, this video took a little bit longer than I expected. But if you enjoyed it, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one, guys, and goodbye.